What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to a new video. So in today's video, the 2015 Dodge Dart Rally Edition comes back to the channel for a little bit of work. We're going to be showing you guys how to remove the rear bumper cover from these cars, because on this one we have a little blemish on the passenger side rear of the bumper cover that you can see right here. So what we need to do is get this bumper cover removed from the car so we can do a little bit of a clear coat blend on that area of the bumper. So we're going to work on getting it taken off. I'll show you guys how to prep that area for a little bit of a blend work, and then we will go ahead and in the next video get the bumper reinstalled on the car. So without further ado, let's get started on this one, get the car raised up in the air on the quick jacks, and we'll show you guys how to get this bumper popped off the rear of this car. Alrighty guys, so we got the car raised up in the air on the quick jacks. The next thing we are going to do is pop the trunk and then disconnect the battery. We have to pop the trunk first because it is an electronic release on these cars, and with the battery disconnected you will not be able to get this trunk open unless you crawl through the back seat and use the emergency release latch. So we're going to pop that trunk and then we're going to head up front, get that negative terminal disconnected on the battery, and then we'll start by removing the wheels on the rear here so we can access the fender shields, fender liners in the back there, and then we'll be able to start showing you how to remove the actual rear bumper cover portion. So now we've disconnected and isolated the negative battery terminal there. If you guys are doing this job, it does use a 10mm nut on there, just a simple ratchet and socket, or a 10mm wrench will get that off for you. Then just set the negative terminal aside where it's not going to contact any metal of the body. Right here is where I like to tuck it between the back of the battery and this fuse box here. It's all surrounded by plastic, so you won't have any arcing or contact being made with any of the body of the car. Now we're going to move on, get the rear wheels removed, and then I will show you how to remove the rear fender liners. Now, provided you guys are still on the stock wheel setup, all you're going to need is a 19mm socket and your choice of impact wrench or ratchet, and we'll be able to get those lug nuts right off of there and remove both of these wheels. So now with the wheel removed, we can start looking at how to remove these rear fender liners. If you guys have watched my video on removing the front bumper cover on this car, this looks to be a very similar setup. There are 3 8mm bolts on the back side of each of these fender liners. There are some 10mm nuts here, 1, 2, 3, and 4 up here. So a total of 4 10mm nuts. And then there are 4 push clips at the front, 3 going up the side here, and 1 here on the inside. And there's also an additional one here on the back side. So we'll need a 8mm socket, a 10mm socket, and a trim clip removal tool to get those push pins out. Once we do that, we should be able to get this fender liner out of the way. If I run into anything along the way, I'll be sure to update you guys as we take it apart. Alrighty guys, so after getting all of those fasteners removed, I did notice there is one more 8mm bolt under this little arrow shield that's at the base of the fender liner where it attaches to the bottom of the rocker panel. So I'm just going to go up here and close this out. And there she is. And now we should be able to get the whole fender liner removed from the vehicle. So there she is with the fender liner removed, guys. When you're removing this fender liner, take very, very good care to not damage or scratch this little edge of the quarter panel here. As you can see, I was very careful removing it so I didn't cause any damage or break any paint. If you do break any paint, that will be a prime area for rust to start on the car for you. So just so you're aware, be very careful. There is some tight tolerances getting that fender liner out over the little studs that it sits on. Be sure to not scratch that quarter at all so you don't run into any rust issues down the road. I am going to go ahead and clean up all this area while I'm here, clean up the fender liner from the years of dirt that are on the back side of it there, because you can't get in there and wash it when it's installed. So I'm going to go ahead and get all this cleaned up, get all the hoses and everything cleaned, and then we will move on to the other side and get that fender liner out as well. Should be basically the same process, but I'll show you it as well in case there's any differences from left to right side. So guys, here we are on the driver's side of the vehicle, and we're just going to repeat the same process that we did over on the passenger side. We're going to remove these 5 little push pin clips in here holding the fender liner in, and then we're going to remove the 10mm nuts, 1, 2, 3, holding the fender liner in up here around the strut tower. And then we are going to remove the 3 8mm bolts at the rear of the fender liner, as well as the 1 8mm bolt here up under this little arrow shield. So we're going to get that done, get this fender liner out, and then move on to removing the rear cover itself. So now that both fender liners are removed, we can start removing the actual rear bumper cover section of this car. So this bumper cover is held in to the car first by 1 10mm bolt on the inside of the quarter on each side of the car. So there's one here and there's one on the opposite side. Once those 10mm bolts are removed, there's a retainer bracket that runs along here, another one that I believe runs along the taillight, a small one that runs in the middle of the trunk opening here, and the same thing is replicated on the other side. Small retaining bracket below the taillight, and another bracket that runs along the joint between the bumper cover and the quarter there. Once those are all detached, the retainers along the opening of the trunk and under the taillights will all just pop off as far as I'm aware. We will also have to come under the rear cover here and remove these 3 push pin clips. Got one there in the center, and a third one right there. Once we get that all taken off, we should be able to remove this whole bumper cover as an assembly with the lower valance piece and the exhaust tips. So let's go ahead and get those 10mm bolts removed from either side of the bumper and see if we can get this thing popped off the car. So one last step before we're going to be fully ready to remove this rear cover. We need to reach in here in the passenger side rear wheel well and remove this wiring harness connector right here that powers the rear license plate lamp and any of the parking sensors if you guys have a model with parking sensors. So just be sure to disconnect that pigtail right there so you don't damage either the wiring harness or the main harness that runs up to the rest of the body when you remove the rear cover. Now we can jump up top and pop off the center reinforcement for the bumper cover and get this removed. So there seems to be something in addition to a retainer bracket in this area holding the bumper cover on. It seems like we're going to have to remove these two push pins and pull the carpet back on either side here so we can see what that is. So right now I'm going to see if I can get those out, remove the interior carpet for the trunk liner, and see if there's a nut or a bolt, some type of fastener holding the bumper cover in under the tail lights there. So guys, after removing those two little push pins that hold the trunk carpeting into the side of the trunk there are no fasteners that hold the bumper cover in from the inside. I looked at the procedure that Mopar provides on how to remove this, and it does just show that there's a retaining bracket along here, and there's a clip right here and right here on that retaining bracket, but there's no easy way to get a hold of those to either trip them off or release the tension on them. So what I'm gonna do is remove the tail light and see if that gives me better access to get down on top of where those clips are under here, and see if I can relieve the tension on both of those. So to take the tail light out, it's just gonna be a couple 8mm nuts, it looks like. One here, and then disconnect the wiring harness, and we should be able to get this popped out of here, and then we should be able to access that bracket here and get this half of the bumper cover pulled off. I will have to do the same process over there as well to get the trunk carpeting taken out, remove the tail light, and then pop off those two little retaining clips there. And then we're going to have to tackle whatever situation is behind the center of the bumper cover here holding it on. I'm sure it's going to be clips and retainers that are just as brutal as these, so we're going to get on those right now. Alrighty, so there you have it. Those are the two clips right here that are holding the bumper cover on. So as you see, in removing the taillight makes it a heck of a lot easier to get those out. And then we have free play here with these. Looks like it should be pretty easy to get the rest of this off. So continuing with the theme of hidden fasteners holding this rear bumper cover on, underneath the vehicle, this is the rear trunk pan right here. Got the exhaust tips over here for reference. There are two 10mm bolts, one right here and one right here, holding this sort of support brace or impact absorber bar to the rear of the car. This is also attached to the rear bumper cover via these screws that come down from the top, and then the exhaust tips bolt on next to it. So we're going to remove these two 10mm bolts, and these should be the last fasteners that we need to remove in order to get this cover off. So there you have it, guys. We got the rear bumper cover removed from the car without damaging anything. I'm super happy about that. Now we're going to get this bumper cleaned up, get it loaded up in the Jeep, and get it taken over to the body shop, get the paint work done over there, and then in the next video we will go ahead and get it reinstalled on the car and show you guys how it looks once it's finished. Alrighty guys, so we got the area prepped with a 600 grit wet sanding here, got the scratch out of the paint. And now we're going to prime this area and get it ready for the clear coat blend. We'll throw 2 or 3 coats of primer on it, sand it with 600 again, give it another good wet sanding, make sure it's smooth, and then we will blend a little color in. We'll sand a little bit around this area as well so we can blend the clear. and then we'll see how it goes. Alrighty guys, so we got the area repaired here, got it freshly painted in. There is quite a bit more orange peel in this section than I would like, so I am going to take care of that extra texture. I'm going to sand it down wet with some 1500 grit, and then I'm going to buff it out so it matches the rest of the finish on the bumper and the rest of the finish on the car. You can see there's more orange peel in this section than there is in that, so I'm going to get this smoothed out and make sure that it matches the rest of the car so you can't tell that there was any repair done. Otherwise, the color that I mixed matched perfectly. Just got to take care of this little orange peel issue with the clear, and we should be good to go. So that is going to be the end of today's video. As you saw, we got this bumper removed, prepped, repainted, sanded, buffed, and reinstalled here just so we could do the buffing with it put on the car firmly. We're going to end this video here. We got a lot of work accomplished. If you guys found this video helpful or interesting, please feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video with a friend, and drop a comment down below if you have one. As always, you guys, thanks so much for watching, and have an awesome day.